Manziel's dad even spoke out over the weekend, telling ESPN, quote, "I don't know what to say other than my son is a druggie and he needs help. He just hasn't sought it yet. Hopefully he doesn't die before he comes to his senses."
All right, here to talk more about the lawyer's text and Johnny's dad's statement to ESPN, his attorney and former sports agent Chris Lewis. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's start with that text message that we talked about here. Meant for internal purposes, went to the AP. What does that mean? What is that? Is that a huge screw up?
Yeah, I think it's a big screw up. And I think that his attorney, Mr. Hinton, would like for there to be about a 10 or 20 or 30-second delay once text messages go out and grab it. I think that'd be good. Someone could make a lot of money off that. But there's a couple of lawyers working on the case. There's Bob Hinton here in town, and then there's another Mr. Darnell out in El Paso. And so I think those were the messages going back and forth. It's huge because there's strategy, everything that the attorney is thinking now is out there for public consumption, and that's not what it was intended for.
Well, now that it's out there, what's the next step? What would the attorney do to sort of,
mitigate
what do you do?
Well, the thing that he needs to mitigate is the confidence people have, and the confidence Johnny Manziel has in him. What was revealed to me is not that problematic, except for the part that he might have problems with urine test if he were placed on probation.
Right. Yeah.
Interpretation is a big problem here because, for instance, in Dallas, they have a program, it's a conditional dismissal program, where if you meet certain conditions, kind of like a probation, over a certain period of time, then they will dismiss your case.
Okay.
So if that's what's being discussed, and if that's what's on the table, then that could actually be a very good resolution, and that would not involve him pleading guilty to these charges.
Okay. Can we talk about his image real quick? I mean, Johnny Manziel, over the last couple of years, his image is gone. Is there any way to repair that at this point?
Sure. I think it's going to take a lot of work. I think it's going to take a lot of sobriety. He's going to have a pattern of making very good decisions. I think, number one, at this point in time, everyone believes, and I think it's probably accurate, he has a substance abuse problem. We see his weight's decreased. He doesn't seem to care about anything. All of his enablers seem to be running away, which is a good thing. But I think it's going to take him getting real treatment, focusing on himself, not worrying about the partying, not worrying about professional athletics, but to focus on Johnny Manziel and get well.
Well, now, with the case that's being brought against him in Dallas, there's a plea deal in that assault case against his ex-girlfriend. Do you think this is a good move for the defense, or could he be facing, I don't know, jail time? Is he going to get a slap on the wrist? What is the situation going into this?
The typical thing that we do on cases is we try to get a plea deal on the table. What is the best possible deal we can get on the table? That way we can evaluate. Is it best to try to go this route, or should we set this case for trial? If he enters into a plea agreement with the state, I doubt, it's a first offense, I doubt that there will be any jail time. That's not typical. If he goes to trial and he loses, depending on if he chooses the judge or the jury to sentence him, then he very well could face some jail time in this case. Or the other deal is, if he's placed on probation and, as his attorney says,
can't pee in a cup,
can't pee in a cup, or messes up on anything else, then it goes to the judge, and the judge determines what should be the punishment for violating those terms of probation.
If you were his agent, I mean, you know, you said rehab is what he needs to do. If you're his agent and you had one call to him right now, what would you say to him on the phone?
I would say the same thing that everyone else is saying, you're going to end up in jail, or you're going to end up dead, or you're going to end up dead unless you focus on your sobriety. You got to get well. And it doesn't seem like that's what he's interested in right now.
That's sad.
All right, Attorney Chris Lewis, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you for your insight.